Today, I am joined by my guest, Reyah, a Los Angeles-based autodidactic emerging artist. As both the photographer and subject, he employs cultural references and iconography to create powerful narratives about identity, childhood trauma, religion, and the Black body. In his current body of work entitled Becoming Reyah, he skillfully incorporates rope, intricately weaving it around his body to create visually striking compositions that evoke a sense of tension, restraint, and liberation. This exploration invites viewers to reflect on the complexities of personal and societal constraints while celebrating the potential for growth, transformation, and self-empowerment. Reyah's self-portraits serve as a catalyst for broader conversations about race, representation, the human condition, and societal constructs that shape our understanding of gender. His art invites viewers to engage in meaningful discussions, fostering dialogue and understanding. Welcome, Reyah. So glad that you're here with us today. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here. I really am. It's such an honor to be here. So thank you. Thank you.
Yes, we met a few months back. I think it's been some months back in Los Angeles at Patricia Sweeto Gallery. And for folks who are not familiar with your work, which we will see in a little bit, the second that I saw them, I was like, this is just gorgeous, gorgeous, beautiful, breathtaking work that I'm really excited to be able to deep dive into. Can you tell us where you are right now and you know how everything's going for you?
I can do that. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm in Los Angeles. This is my studio in the Arts District, downtown LA. And I'm good. I'm doing pretty good. Hard at work, but I'm good.
Hard at work, we can see that. And when we look into the work, we can see that as well. You are like other artists, you also have a day job. You support yourself in other ways outside of your art. Do you mind going into that a little bit?
No, I don't mind at all. I've been a trainer, personal trainer and health coach for quite some time now. So it's kind of enabled me to be able to do what I really, really love, which is art. I really, really love training too. And it's given me so many valuable things, just having one-on-one with people that I would normally not come in contact with. I've grown in so many ways as a result of it, and I enjoy it. I love it. I love it.
Awesome. I love that, and we're gonna see some of that show up in your work. So I wanna kind of go back a little bit with you and talk about your you know, what's sparked your interest in art, and can you remember that first piece where you're like, huh, this is the path for me. This is really how I want to spend my time and my energy. Did you remember?
That's a good question. I don't think there was ever a time where I just went, it was like this aha moment, because I've always been involved with art. I've always done something artistic, because in the beginning, childhood, turn this to a therapy session, but childhood, I used art to actually help me understand what was going on, to help me deal with a lot of things that were happening, in my childhood, in my family life, help me understand my position, my place in the community and in the world. And, that's something that I think I learned through maybe watching my parents, mainly my mother. I think that's how she coped with a lot of difficulties as well. I'd go to bed at night and wake up in the morning, and the living room would be completely painted differently, like leopard skin. And I mean, like the walls, the lampshades, everything. And she would stay up all night just creating this, like doing this. We never asked her why. It was just a thing that she did. And now that I look back, I look at her life, our lives, and I think I have an understanding of why she did that. So for me, I think I may have adopted that, a way to find a safe space in creation, in creating things that give voice to my pain, my anger, or whatever it is. And it's something that I could use to keep me safe and empower me to move forward. And it also gave me like a refuge, kind of, if you will, like a place to hide.
Okay.
That's necessary. So
Uh,
art is
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
it's been a savior to me. And in terms of that moment when I thought it was something that I could pursue professionally, it was, I'm kind of like a social media baby when it comes to art. I didn't go to art school. I don't have a master's in fine art and none of that. But I did start, fooling around with the camera and taking basically selfies, and and again, everything turns into an art project with me. So that turned into an art project. And someone reached out to me, and this person who I respect so much reached out to me and said that one of my pieces was brilliant. And I was really moved by that, because I think that this person is brilliant in terms of their art. And so that was probably the moment when I said, okay, maybe I should move forward with this into like a professional situation.
I love it. I love it. Whoever that person is, thank you for doing that. How long ago was that when you kind of took this leap into this journey?
The professional journey, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow. I think I've been maybe 2018, maybe. So
Okay.
that's pretty recent. Up until then, I was just making art because I love making art. So, and it's still the way I do it.
And in terms of art, was photography always that special medium for you, or have you worked in other mediums that we're not looking at today?
It's funny you ask that, because early on, like in my 20s, I actually studied film and television. So I actually have a associate of arts degree in film and television. And what happened is, you get to that point where you have to write a script. You have to actually use words. You work in silent film for a while and you have to use words. And when that part came, I could not write a script. I could not put words in others' mouths. I couldn't do it. I tried, but they were just really poor. But the images seemed to be really powerful and affecting people. So that is when I learned, that's where I need to be at. But I still didn't want to use a camera. I still don't actually like taking pictures, to be honest. I don't really like the camera. I don't. But I started out early on. My first venture in arts was singing, actually. So I went to school for that as well. Took a lot of music classes. I actually started writing music. Started a band. Started, singing and writing songs with that band. And then at some point, it's just I've been graduating to different types of art because it's just a part of who I am. When I came to the actual camera, it was kind of a continuation from film school, because I realized that I could actually continue what I was doing, in a sense, silent films, and they would be so powerful, and I had control of everything there. And so that's how I kind of ended up with the camera.
That is so fascinating. So I just kind of want to jump into your work so we can start talking about the pieces right now. So yeah, let me do that. Just give me a second. I don't know why. I've been doing this
Yeah, you have a
how many right now, and I still just like, wait, how do I share? So here we go. All right. So fantastic. You are seeing, let me turn this part off. You're just so we're clear, you're seeing the full screen, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sometimes this thing chooses to show things that I don't want it to show. So.
No, it's beautiful. It looks great. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah. So I just wanted to jump into some of your earlier work to kind of get a sense of where you've come in this journey as an artist. And please tell us about this amazing piece that I think I recognize. The
Do
young
you? The little boo-boo. That's me. I think I don't know how old I am. I'm probably about, what is that, like 5 or something?
Wow.
And I put these two images together. I think this is an earlier work, but I put these two images together because, as an adult, I began to think back, being a child, what lessons were taught to me,
Mm-hmm.
how was I prepared for the world today? How was I prepared specifically for being a man in the world? How was I prepared specifically being a African American man in the world?
Mhm.
I was not prepared. So, just like, and in the school systems, all we did was pledge allegiance to the flag. This image is called I Pledge. So I remember being a young child, and I remember saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, not knowing what it meant, not knowing, obviously what would become as a result of it, um, and not knowing that I wasn't necessarily included in that pledge.
Mhm.
At least it feels like I wasn't. So that's really what this image does for me. It basically, it looks at me as a child. At this age, I had no idea. I was so different. I probably, I saw the world so much differently, and I felt like I was, a part of this whole thing. And it was before all the truth started to come out about our situation in this country. So that's that.
I love that. I love that. I mean, I love also this idea because I think, being around 5 or 6, this is when your consciousness, about your identity starts to emerge. You're not completely sure yet.
Yeah,
But definitely I think being within the context of the United States, you start to, as if you're not part of the quote unquote mainstream, you start to really notice that you have some differences, you can't articulate them. So I love this as a starting place of, kind of understanding this journey as you're discovering yourself and your role within this place. Like, what does it mean to be an American citizen? And,
yeah,
if you don't fit the status quo, per
yeah,
se,
yeah.
really, what is your place within this? Yeah, I love this as a starting place for thinking about the work that you make. Um, and then we're gonna jump into this one, which is a vastly
Mhm.
different type of an image where you enter into the scene.
Right. This is called Pride and Prejudice, and this is the image that the person I mentioned that I respect as an artist is likes so much, and told me what they felt about this image. And the thing about this image is that at this time, it was during the Black Lives Matter protests and all that was going on at that time. I lived very close to Melrose Avenue.
Mm.
A lot of that took place. There was also a lot of the stores there were broken into. So I'm seeing all of that from my window, and I'm feeling it, and it's really heavy, as it is with anyone else. So occasionally, we also had the onset of COVID as well. So, this particular day, I needed to get out. I needed to take a walk. So I wasn't wearing that wig, by the way. So, but I needed to take a walk. So I went for a walk, and at the time I was also kind of really into street art. Um, I thought it was just really cool, and I just wanted to be a part of it. So, but this is actually the backdrop. The Black Lives Matter thing is actually the art that someone had posted
Mhm.
as protests, and I thought that was really important to capture that. Um, you know, and the image, it's me walking past that, and being a queer person, being gay, and hearing in the background that my Black life matters, and seeing signs everywhere, and then knowing that that's just one obstacle that I have to deal with, one thing that I have to deal with, and people are telling me, you know all these things as I'm walking by, and I'm seeing all these signs. And then there's also the issue of being queer.
Mhm.
So there's an intersection there that can be very complicated and difficult to navigate through, which it has been my entire life. And so that was just the moment that I captured and was living and needed to express, and to really, really kind of figure out how I was personally feeling at that time. It's about, in terms of what everybody was telling me, either I should be, or how I should feel, or if I matter, or if I don't matter. It was a tough time. I'm sure you felt that.
Oh yeah, didn't we all feel that?
Yeah,
That, yeah, the isolation. There's you know, it just really strikes me with this image with the background of the signs being ripped.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's also this contrast with the brightly colored combs or hair picks in
Yeah,
there.
pride colors. So the exact pride colors.
Okay, okay. Awesome, awesome. I love that. I love that. Um, and so yeah, this is setting us up, and we're gonna jump into this new series. Ellen says your work is incredible. I'm so glad I got to hear you show and speak about it today. Many thanks.
Thank you. That's so nice. Thank you.
Yeah, and
That's
everyone, please put your comments in there. I want to hear from you. Please don't be silent. I know the work is about to get deep and gorgeous right now. And so we're jumping into this current series, the Becoming Reyah series. And these are the works that, you know, this moment that I saw, I was just like, what is this? This is amazing. Um, so yeah, please talk about these. I'm really interested in, you know, what are the stories that are being told through this body of work?
yeah. This there's a lot of stories being told here, and this is really, when you talk about process and those things, this is actually a result of a process that I actually do sometimes. It's, I came into the studio and I guess I was feeling some type of way that day. And I just wanted to, I wanted to get something out.
Mm,
And sometimes what I do, it's really kind of difficult to do, but there are, if you go online, you can find out, like, there's images of slaves, meaning like it's almost a portrait. They took portraits of slaves. So I was going through them. And what I came across one, and it was a woman, and she was sitting there holding a white child.
mm,
And she was looking dead into the lens. And it was profound. And I kept staring at it. I kept staring at it. And I just was like, I wanted to know, I felt like she was communicating with us, which I think all pictures do. I think all images, photography, it's for the future. It leaves a trail, it leaves a footprint. And for me that day, she left a footprint that I could actually see. And so I got off my computer screen and went right back here over to the rope and started making this dress. I believe it's her. And I don't know if she's crying or praying. But she really moved me. And I put her in the rope. Because for
mm.
me, the rope represents, it is part of our history.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Part of our history.
So I want to hear a little bit more about the rope. I mean, when I hear the rope, or when I think about the image of the rope, especially because of the way that it's wrapped and raveled around to create this garment, including the, I'm not sure, head wrap, the headpiece. I'm thinking of binding.
Mhm.
I especially, thinking in terms of the African American context. I'm thinking about hanging,
Yep.
dragging. It's not evoking positivity
Right.
necessarily, except for the forms that you've manipulated it into.
Yes. Yeah, and that's what I mean. I'm glad you said that. I'm actually glad you said that. And I wanted to evoke those thoughts and those memories, and those, not memories, but those thoughts and things, without, I guess, without shoving it down your throat in a harsh
Mhm.
way.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's really important when we tell stories. Um, but I think the rope gives her strength in some
Mm,
way. It gives her a lot of strength. The gloves, I chose to put those on, and for me, those are kind of a sense of hope. They're kind of sense of moving her forward into the future. Um, the head wrap, it is just that, a head wrap, but then you see the kind of weeds or sort of uh, stems of plants from working
mhm.
fields are there that she must carry. Um, and again, I don't know whether she's praying or crying, but I wanted to leave it right there, um,
Mhm.
because I think that's really important to just not have to tell you everything. You're going to have to like look into it and see it for yourself. But the rope does bind. Then at the same time, I think it does give strength.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
that is a good way to think about it. Like, yeah, it does actually provide strength and support, and there's rope bridges that we cross, and then also climbing ropes to safety as well. I'm very interested in because as we look through your body of work, the face is more often than not obscured or completely covered. You refer to this as this woman, this character. So as when you were actually both photographer and subject of your compositions, each time are you embodying a different kind of character, spirit, ancestor, or I don't know, I don't put words into your mouth, but can you talk about the subjects of your work?
that's really interesting. I think, and I started out by saying that I kind of, I really studied this woman. I felt like I wanted to connect with her and whatever it is she's experiencing in that particular moment. I wanted to be a vessel and allow that to come into me so that I could actually produce an image. So
Mm.
I think that's the best way to describe what I do when it comes to these characters. I mean, there's two parts to that, but these characters is to allow to kind of embody their spirits and allow them to use my body as a vessel to express what they need to express. That helps me understand things a lot better, and that helps other people understand things a lot better. Um, the other thing is that, I mentioned childhood and childhood trauma. This is something that I've always done.
Mm.
And this is where it gets a little weird, but I had kind of all how do I say this? Friends. I had friends that really did not exist.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
they were friends that were around me and surrounded me like spirits and protected me and talked to me, and they had names, and we lived our lives together. And a lot of the characters and a lot of the bodies that I represent those protectors that I had, those guardians that were in my imagination.
Mm.
So a lot of times it dictates like their how they stand, what they wear. I don't really look at them necessarily. Did refer to her as female because it is based off of female, but
Mhm.
generally I don't go in thinking male or female. Gender really doesn't play a role in my art at all.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That doesn't. I just do what the art calls for me to do.
Mhm, mhm.
And that is something that I don't know how that happened. I think it just, again, came from that childhood thing that I did where I created this imaginary worlds and characters and lived in them, and they were real to me. They went to the store with me, they went to school with me, you know what I mean? So I think that plays a role in in the characters that I present to you. Um, yeah.
Love it. I love it. That's
Answer your
wonderful.
question.
That answers my question, and then some. Um, you know, with this image, I know that there is a body present, though the body is not not visible at all for me. Um, or just very, very subtly in the background. Um, this You're constantly using this very intense contrasty lights. I think I said to you in some of the notes that I sent to you earlier that it very much evokes the dramatic lighting that you're using for me evokes Renaissance era painter like a Caravaggio, or even more so than Caravaggio, in that dramatic lighting and you
Yeah,
know
yeah, yeah,
I mean, just the drama that
yeah. It's
we would compose with paintings. It's more like a Rembrandt or other Dutch masters understanding of lighting and darkness and the way that those two meet. So it creates this very moody, deep kind of contemplative space. Can you talk about your choice in working through this type of dramatic lighting?
Yes, thank you. Dimitri, I appreciate that you noticed the comparison there. During again, we have to talk about COVID again, but because I'm tired of talking about it.
Hey, it was something we all had to live through. So
Yes. So during that time, I went, there was not a lot to do. So you either go to the beach, you go to the park, whatever, whatever. But I really started appreciating art a lot more. And I started going to museums when they were open. So I went to Norton Simon in Pasadena. And that's where I saw the 15th, 16th century painters and the art. And I never looked at it the way I did that day. And, the room was obviously very silent and there weren't a lot of people there. And there was something just really moving about these images, these paintings that I was seeing. First of all, they were just brilliant. I can't understand how human hands can do something like that. And then the visual, like just how like the texture of it, and again the contrast, and the little fat arms and things like that, really kind of I thought was really amazing and beautiful. And then I thought, if I could do photographs like a painter paints, they would be beautiful. And so I always think of my work as a painting. Although, I know photography is it's a great practice and should be appreciated, but there's something about painting that I just love. And I've never tried painting, so maybe that's next. So I wanted to add that to the practice. And that's actually an actual choice, yes. Yeah.
I love that. And so then going into this piece, I'm also just really interested not only in this piece and what it's evoking for you, but let's just start there actually.
Well, this piece it's obviously a mirrored image, and the reason I did that is because it's really, the book "Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret."
Don't know that one, but I'm sure some of the folks
It's
on here
huge,
are
yeah.
familiar.
Well, I think I loved that book as a child. And the deal was, it was a little child who had a relationship with God. And I was that child. As a child, again, surviving trauma, dealing with things like that, I always had this conversation with God, but it was different. It was a negotiating. So it was like, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you, God. It was this constant negotiation between me. And really what it was me trying to figure out, what is this God? What is this spiritual thing that we have? And this to me reminds me of, like spirit and Holy Spirit, and the idea, the concept of that. I grew up in church, although I'm pretty much agnostic. So I do believe there's something there. I don't think we know what it is. So this is really about me and children and people in their search for spirituality, their search for understanding, their sense of being alone and not having, support. And in those moments, when you don't have those things, you turn to yourself and you just hope and pray that you get the answer that you need. And that was me as a child sometimes. So that is the idea here, because I think that God is within us. I think spirituality is within us. So the fact that I'm here talking to myself and talking to God.
Wow. Okay. So
Okay.
it's a conversation between the two of them. Yeah, I was like, is this twinning, doubling? I guess
Yes.
it is all of that. Yeah. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And I'm noticing this little puff of smoke around.
Yeah, that is the again, we can get into that later, because I'm always dealing with the idea, the concept of religion. And I remember I started in a Baptist church, and there was always this thing about the Holy Spirit. And if you were right enough, if you were good enough, the Holy Spirit will be there for you, and that's what, that smoke, that fog kind of, it's that.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. I love that. I'm so enjoying this conversation. So these are pieces that I've again, like I said, when I first saw your work, the aesthetic, approach that you take is the thing that just immediately made me just love the work. And then, you've got these symbols, there's a subtlety to the work that makes me really want to deep dive into it. And so I start to try to find meaning in that. And so several folks on here are familiar with that book. And then I guess it was also released as a
Yeah,
film a few years ago. So I'm gonna have to check that out.
that
Um,
told
that's
you it
amazing.
was popular.
Okay, now we're to the image that I also used as as
Yes.
the cover title for this talk. And yeah, this piece is just absolutely amazing in so many different ways. Um, at first I thought it was a reclining figure, and it was for me it was evoking the figure of the odalisque, or the women in waiting, I guess, or the
Yeah,
harem women that were so popular. But then I noticed as I look a little bit closer that the rope is kind of doing its own thing to the right, and the figure appears to be sitting cross-legged.
yes. Yeah, this is I originally wanted to call this Ori, sort of, but I just recently did you're gonna laugh. I did 23andMe. I don't know. And because I had no idea. I had no idea like of my heritage, my roots and things like that. We can get into that later. And and I found out it was Ghanaian and Nigerian. And then I started to look into like Nigerian culture, not a lot, but I looked into it. And again, my obsession with religion and so forth, found out they had this thing called Ori,
Mhm.
which is a Yoruba metaphysical concept, and it means head, and refers to one's spiritual intuition and destiny. And when the headpiece there, for me, that's what it symbolizes.
Mm.
That growth and that strength and that where you reach that kind of state of that meditative state of balance. And I think it's something that a lot of us seek, that kind of peace of mind and peace of body. And then also, I look at the rope, how I structured it. For me, it has a lot to do. It reminds me of a river,
Mm.
and I like that because then you think about how we got here. What it took to get here, and you know, and so that's why that's where I kind of left it actually.
Can you? I love that, and I'm like, oh, maybe Odie is actually a subtitle for this one, because yeah, I see that, and it's also reminding me of the Oba's crown,
Mm.
in that conical shape as well.
Yeah,
So I can definitely feel that influence coming through on the work.
yeah,
And it's not funny or silly to look into our ancestry, because we were cut off from it. So we that's the way for us to be able to find out, you
yeah,
know
yeah,
who we're
absolutely.
descended from.
Yeah,
So with this image, I mean, the figure is looking completely away from us in this. Can you go more into this choice to that the figure is always either turned away, or the face is obscured in some kind of way? They're either covered up and able to see us, but we're not able to see the figure, or they're just in this situation, there's just no direct engagement. And I'm really interested in that.
yeah. So am I. So I have to figure that out. It started out as it's truly hiding. It did. It started out as hiding. It's really difficult to be in front of a camera. It's
Hmm.
really difficult, even if, and that's why I think I take the image. I started taking the images myself of myself, because it created a safe space for me to go ahead and to express what I needed to express. Once I started to put the images out there, I realized that people would lose focus, and it became about, if you're hot or not, you know, and I think part of that is I don't want people to lose focus. I think part of it was my fear of being objectified, and because that happens a lot. I think it happens to many people, and now I think it's really about control of my own body and my own image, and that's important to me because growing up, that's not something I think I had.
Mm.
I think that my body, yeah, it was always in the hands of someone else. So whether it was discipline from the parents, being stopped by the cops and hit, that was my body, whether it was, being molested at the age of 13, all of these things. So I think that my positioning has a lot to do with that because I am nude in a lot of these photos and it is very vulnerable. And I'm sharing a lot of vulnerable information about myself in order to heal. So I think in one way, it's a way of protecting myself. Maybe in the future, I will begin to change that. Because I think the whole journey for me is about growth. It is about healing. It is about moving forward and onward. Also, I don't think you need to see my face. I don't think you need to see it. I don't think anyone needs to see my face. That's not where the story is. I know they say eyes are the window to the soul. Yes, yes, yes. But I think there's something amazing about giving people a little bit and allowing them the space and to add to it whatever helps them. And I'm not really selling anything. So, but I just don't want it to be a distraction.
Okay. I love that. I love that. I mean, it also this piece, even in the composition, it makes me think of at MoAD right now, we have a piece up by Ayanna V. Jackson. It's also a self. Yeah, are you familiar with the Anarcha image?
Yes.
Yeah. So in a very, kind of in a very similar thing, it makes me think of there's so much talk, especially within Black art, about the white gaze of the viewer. And when we show ourselves fully, as you were saying with these photos of the enslaved folks, oftentimes they're forced to look directly at us. If you look closely, you can see the look in their eyes of they don't necessarily want to be there. Sometimes they're really upset. So in the image that Ayanna V. Jackson does, where she recreates this image of Anarcha, who is really one of the mothers of modern women's health, I guess I would say, because she was experimented on. And so in the photographs of, or the paintings, the original paintings of Anarcha, she's very, very much objectified as if she's not a person. And so by turning her away, Ayanna is giving her the space to reclaim her identity and to turn away and to not let us stare at her and objectify her further. And I'm seeing the parallel with this image. And then even what you're just saying is like, you're not selling yourself, you're not making yourself available to people to take and to consume necessarily, which I find is a very I think that's very interesting. I mean, you are a very good looking person. You have the body, you're this perfectly sculpted body, but yet even still within that, the way that you compose the images, particularly this one, you're not giving the viewer full access to you.
Right, and that's the key. I mean, for me, it's not giving full access and keeping that control and keeping that balance. For just at this time, empowers me. It allows me the space and the freedom and the security to do what I want to do, to create what I want to create, and to have the voice that I want to have. But again, that's not to say in the future I won't be just grinning for everybody. Selling those, cupcakes. I don't know, but it, I don't know. But right now, this is artistically, this is what it calls for. This is what the art calls for, and I have to listen to that. because I don't think it would be authentic. Because if I turned around to show you my face just because I'm
Mhm.
doing that, it's not to say that some images you won't see my face. You see little pieces here and there.
Yeah. Little glimpses, and then just to kind of like move into that direction here.
Yes.
Which again, we're only seeing little bits and pieces. But I think there's also this other thing that you're doing where we also start to um the character becomes more of the character, right? Because I'm not immediately trying to understand your story directly. I am
Yes.
as a viewer, I'm starting to try to figure out who this person is that I'm experiencing. I do have a question that I'll jump to. Susanna is asking, they're curious if you have any intention to refer to Shibari with this piece or other pieces involving rope.
Wait, say that. Ask that again. I didn't.
And Susanna, I'm not super familiar. I think Shibari is Japanese, a Japanese form, right? But correct me if I'm wrong. Are you referring to Shibari with any of the pieces that are involving rope?
You know, not yet. I need more clarification on what is it Shibari?
I believe correct. Japanese rope Shibari. The art of Japanese rope bondage.
Oh, I figured, but I didn't want to assume. I love that question. And the answer is right now, no. However, that is something not, I think not knowing what it is that I'm actually moving towards in some of the new work, which you have not seen yet. And first, there is a part of me that I'll just say it needs to use the rope or material in that manner.
Hmm.
And I can't ignore that. And in some of my earlier works, you see it. Um, but you know, I think it will gravitate a little bit in that direction because that is an expression that I think I need to have. I need to let out. Yeah, I think I understand the question. Yeah. So
Hmm.
thank you. It's a
Uh,
good question.
I love it. I love it. I want to, because we are getting close to our time. I'm going to remind folks in the audience to please put your questions. Actually, I can't see your questions at this point. So if you put them in the chat, I can see them at this point, but I will reserve some time in the next 5 minutes to dedicate to questions from the audience. And I will jump into this one. Maxine wants to know, do you first wind or wrap the rope and then put it on, or do you wrap it onto your body? So are you wrapping the rope and then putting it on you, or are you wrapping it in place?
That's a really good question. It just depends on the day. Like right now, it's true. It just depends on the day. First of all, I got to tell you, the rope is really, it's not easy to work with. It really isn't. It has a mind of its own. It has a strength of its own. It has a direction of its own. So I may go into it with an idea, something that I want, a certain flow that I want, the way I want it to wrap around my body. 9 out of 10 times, that's not going to happen. It
Hmm.
is a collaboration that I have to give into that process, that it is a collaboration in order for things to occur. There are times where I work and I do construct like the dress, you know, it's constructed, it's put together, so it's going to stay. That is created, and then I'm able to step into it. It's really extremely heavy, so it becomes kind of like a freestanding piece that I have to have
Hmm.
supported by wire and things like that. There are situations where I will play for discovery, and I will just get a bundle of rope and just wind myself up in it and see what happens. And I think that's really important to the process, to be free and to have this kind of dance sort of relationship with the material, allow it to do what it does, and then I do what I do, and we come together to tell the story.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm gonna kind of go through a few of the other images in the series so we can kind of see them. I love that over time through this body of work, the rope starts to go away, or we see less and less of it. Um, And so I can, if you would like me to go back to these after we do any of these, I would love to, kind of circle back, but I want to make sure that everyone gets a
In a little penis in
chance
that.
to, yeah, a little teaser on them. And
These
so,
are all, these are all of these are kind of my soldiers. And this is some of the stuff is derivative of, believe it or not, Prince Harry and Meghan.
really, tell
Yeah,
me more, please.
well, I read the book and I couldn't help it. I read the book, Harry's book, and just watching that whole thing go down, you have these people of privilege, the most privileged, complaining about certain things.
Mm,
And that's fine. And they may be right or wrong. It's not, mine to say, but I began to think, once you bring someone Black into the castle, what does it look like?
mm,
And so I started to create these characters that lived in the castle. And this is kind of one of them that you're seeing right now. This one's kind of like a guard or a soldier. And, they are Black. And but the rope for me symbolizes, like, say they're in like a castle or a high position, but there is a history that is always attached. There are other people's perceptions of you that are always attached. And that's why the garments in these cases are made out of the rope, to kind of demonstrate that, for myself, and to kind of work through
mm.
that.
So what happens in an image like this where the rope is very, it almost feels like there's a laboring with this rope?
That's exactly, yeah. Dimitri, you're good.
Well, no, you're good. That I can immediately pull that out from just seeing it. So.
There's a I can't remember the term. You might want to help me with this. I think it's coughing or something. It's where they tie the rope for slaves. I'm sorry,
Oh,
between slaves, they tie the rope around their neck. It's like a chain gang,
okay.
and that is kind of a reflection of that. But I wanted to show the strength that is involved in that, because with the arm, there's a sort of resistance there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it goes back to the fact that, these are the people that, these are the bodies that endured the pain and were strong enough to allow me and you to be here today.
Mm.
So that's what, I'm reflecting in this image. And it does get into a little bit of restraint, that, I think is necessary to show, on the body.
Yes, for sure, for sure. I have some questions that came through, but before we do that, would
Yes.
love to jump into your newest body of work or what you're working on right now. That is one of the questions that someone was asking. And I believe when you move your head a little to the side, is
Yes.
this the piece also that's behind us?
Yeah,
Wonderful, I love it.
so, excuse me, this image I'm working on right now, and it's been a while, and I'm calling it tongue.
Mm,
And it started out as, well, that doesn't matter. It's called tongue, and gosh, it's a lot. I mean, it has to do with language. It has to do with how I speak and how I'm perceived as a
mm,
Black man. It has to do with the language that my parents spoke to me, one, to protect me and to prepare me for the world. It has to do with the actual food, tongue,
mm.
in a traditional, like, just soul food that we ate, on occasion. And the part that's kind of like the on top there of the tongue, the winding coils there,
Mhm.
there's jewels in there. There's bead jewels. There's like there's jewelry wrapped into there, and I'm still stitching all of that and gluing that in. Um,
Wow.
and that is my mother's jewelry. So now we're gonna get real deep here. So my mother is actually, and Demetria, we talked about this. My mother's actually very sick right now. She's pretty much at end of life, which it
Mhm.
happens. It's a part of life. So part of that, when I was a kid, this is kind of weird, but I always wanted to get a hold of her jewelry. So I got a hold of her jewelry.
Yeah.
And I thought, what I'm going to do with it. And I thought to go ahead and put it into this piece because, she and I have a very rocky relationship, you know, but in the end, she cared about me and she loves me. And I'm her son. I have an older brother as well. And I wanted to honor that in terms of the things that she taught me, the things that she spoke to me and that I still remember and that I heard. Um, and then I also thought about language for myself. I grew up in a community that my mother was interested. She always wanted us to be safe, so she kept moving us. You know,
Oh,
my brother's 5 years older, so when I was, 5, he was 10, and that's the age that gangs start to approach you in LA. And we
mhm.
lived by the Coliseum, and they did start to approach him. So she moved us to the whitest neighborhood she could find at that time with Gardena. So, um, to protect us. And as a result of that, how I speak is different. I
Mm.
didn't know that until I was like in the 6th grade, and my best friend Hazel, I remember you, Hazel. Ah, she came up to me. Remember, I'm only in the 7th grade, and I didn't know this. She said, I can't be your friend anymore. She was my best friend. I said, why not? She said, because you don't talk like Black people.
Oh my goodness.
Dimitri, I carried that with me for my entire life.
Oh no. Oh no.
So it's unfortunate. And you hear that from both sides, African Americans and white people. They
Mhm,
don't know
mhm.
where to put me. They don't know where to place me. And that's something that I've dealt with my whole life. Black is Black,
Yeah, yeah.
and whether I speak, in this tone, that tone, trust me. It's real. I'm Black, and I'm having that experience. And so this piece here is a part of that. It's a part of coping with that and dealing with that and expressing that and saying, you know what, it's okay. It's okay. It's just
Mhm.
language. And also language is just so important. I think it's probably the most important thing.
I,
Language.
I totally agree. This piece now, as you conceive of this, is this, I mean, you're talking about stitching in the physical jewelry into the,
Yes.
are you moving into sculpture?
Ah, I don't know because I didn't think I'd be doing this. I was taking photographs and doing like makeup and hair, just
Mhm.
for fun and then I think recently I wanted to touch things. I wanted to because I just started noticing a lot of artists, they have second skills. They have a
Yeah,
second
yeah.
skill. And I was like, I wonder if I could make things. And I realized that when I was a child, one of the things I loved the most was on Halloween. Every Halloween, my mother would just pull things from the house, pantyhose, milk cartons, and make a costume for me. And then we go to those little costume fairs, like 6 or 7 of them at the night, and win them all. And that was her being an artist and being creative. So what I'm doing now is I'm just pulling things,
Mm.
creating those moments and creating those experiences and telling those stories with my hands. And it feels so good because this is a long project here. As with some other projects, it's longer than just taking a photograph. I'm able to contemplate and think about my life and think about, like this tongue, it started out as one thing and it just gradually became something else. And it started to speak to me. And that's why I like working with, I'm starting to really like working with material.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It's exciting to see you evolving your practice or expanding it, right? Because I don't think as an artist we need to stick to one thing. And you're definitely in this exploratory phase where you're able to, why not? Why not? Um,
Just yeah, it's where I'm at right now. And it feels good. It feels right. It's really hard. I have so much respect for what you do now, by the way.
the insanity of it all, right? And
Sitting
I love that you're deep diving into it, into the crazy world of hand sewing things onto it. We're close to our end, and so this is another piece behind you that I want to make sure that we grapple with. Tell me more about this. I unfortunately was not able to pull any of the videos.
yeah, that's okay. It's just me painting the thing and doing some stitching of the rope. But this is a piece I'm working on now. And again, it's been, I think I started this maybe, gosh, maybe back in November or whatever. And I'm always in search of spirituality, the meaning of life, our existence. And this is part of me processing that because again, I grew up in a Baptist church. We went
Mhm.
to be Jehovah's Witness. We were Catholic for like a day, you know. so, so this is still me carrying on that tradition of seeking seeking truth, I guess. So I don't know where this is going, but it's going. I don't know where it's going, but that's also, and this is kind of gives you an idea of my process. I'm experimenting with fog and light
Um,
and in addition to the materials.
Well, yeah, I mean, with this one, it's got that cinematic drama, so it feels like you're tapping into your background in film with this one, very much
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I think everything I've done up to this point has prepared me for this. It's obvious. Like I'm seeing it now. You know, the whole working with the material, like you said, the lighting, not wanting to be in front of the camera with someone else taking a picture of me. All of these things, and I'm seeing it now, and I'm appreciative of it now, and I'm exercising those things now. And sometimes, it takes a lifetime to really figure out what it is that is that one is connected to that works.
Mhm.
And I think I'm getting closer, becoming Reyah.
I love it. I love it. So with the last few moments that we have, and hopefully people can stick uh, this out with us. There's kind of two questions that came through that I think are very closely related. So one of them is from our friend Doreen. How did you shoot these images? And then I think kind of the other side of it is coming from Mads. Do you work alone or do you have a room full of assistants when you take the shot? And why? Talk about your decision with this. So I think they're closely related questions.
Okay, so how do I shoot was the first question, right?
Yeah, how do
I'll
you
just
shoot? Do you
answer.
have other folks up in here and why?
Oh no, no, I think that everything has energy, and I'm very careful of the energy in my space. And so I always shoot alone. I don't use an assistant. It's difficult.
Mhm.
It really is, but I think that's necessary. And I'm willing to do it. Um, because I need to protect that space, if you will. I do. And it's not that I don't think that other people have great ideas or they can bring something great to the project. It's just right now, I just need the space to be free to create, just do, you know. And what was the other
Yeah,
question?
so you explain that, but then also kind of your the why behind it. But how do you shoot them? Are you do you have a shutter release? Are you on a timer?
No, I actually have never. I don't. Do we need to answer that question?
I don't think we need to. If you don't want to, then you don't have to. No
I think
pressure
it
for
breaks
me.
the fourth wall, and it kills the magic. Like, why we got to do that?
Yeah. We definitely don't have to go in any there. I think knowing that this is you by yourself, I think answers the question. And so I think,
I do appreciate the question. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure. What's next for you? Do we have shows coming up, residencies, art fairs? Where can folks go to see this stuff that you're creating?
Well, I've been very blessed to meet a woman named Patricia Sweeto, who you know, and we're talking about showing some work together later on this year at Untitled in Miami, and then after that, we'll look at doing a show showing some of the work too, so everyone can see it.
Woohoo! All right. So
And then
yeah,
I'm
folks
in
can
the
see you.
studio hauling ass.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Are you gonna go to Miami for that? I mean, that's the crazy art week.
I would have to. I mean, I would want to experience that. I mean, that would really be my first real showing, and I would want to be there. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So that will be your first big showing, huh?
Yeah. Technically. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Then I felt extra honored that you led us into this process. This is fantastic. I love it.
I thank you. This is really special.
Yeah, so I guess just as a real quick parting kind of thing, who are your inspirations?
Ooh, that's a good question. I wish I could say it was photographers, but it's not. I don't, it's just not. I think who I draw my inspiration from are people like Nina Simone.
Hmm.
Like there's something like, well, I don't know, just otherworldly about her music, her talent, her gift, how she tells a story. And I always try to put that into my work. Miles Davis.
Hmm.
I mean, he would go to a place that just didn't exist, in music. And I always want to reach that place artistically. There are other artists that are less known, like Anoni. Anoni is an incredible artist. Other artists like, I don't know, Arca. You know what I mean? I love Arca. I love Alexander McQueen. I mean, those are the things that move me. When one of those models comes down the runway in an Alexander McQueen show, my breath stops. I can't breathe. And that's what I want. And that's what inspires me. And that's what pushes me. And that's what keeps me in the game. So
Fantastic. Well, according to what everyone is putting into the chats right now, I think you are succeeding in that. And thank you so, so much, Reyah, for joining us today. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much, and good luck in Miami. It's going to be amazing on so many different levels. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.